All right, Drew. I think this time we're actually on.
Are we there?
I don't know.
Can you guys hear us?
Oh, man. Week 7 in the NFL already upon us, man. NFL season is flying right on by.
Found it.
Awesome. But before we talk about your Chiefs and we talk about Mahomes and everything else, and I don't want to poke fun at that one, okay? Normally I'll razz you if those games are tough or something happens to the Chiefs because it's fun to do. Mm-hmm. Not going to do that about injury because injury's not cool. What I am going to razz you about are the Yankees. The guy wearing the Yankees hat over here was telling me before the playoffs started how they're winning. Dude, they got the bats. They got Aaron Judge. They got Stanton. Game over, right?
Yeah.
Who was telling you the Astros are going to be fine?
You picked a heavy favorite to beat the Yankees.
I stayed chalk, but I'm right.
It's not happening yet. Yankees are up 4-1. Yeah, they're down 2 games, but it's a battle back. You know, they gotta keep it. You know, it's gonna be a classic. What's all said and done when the Yankees get their number 28th World Series of all time. It's just they want to make it. You know,
maybe next year when they buy Garrett Cole this offseason and he switches uniforms to go play against the Astros. Maybe then. But for now, I think this one's beyond reach. I know they're winning right now, but they're still going to have to go back through Cole. They're still going to have to go back through Greinke as well. I think it's looking pretty dismal to be the Yankees. They had to take at least last night, I think, if they were going to have a chance to win it. They would have had to tie it at 2 to have a chance to beat this Astros team that just has some crazy pitching on it. We're not going to dwell on it, though.
Yeah. Jonathan, what's going on, man? Glad you could join us. Ian, thank you for letting us know we're good. Chris, anytime you lose a starting quarterback,
well, I think
it's a tough loss, but the defense and the rest of the team pulled through. Brian says, I am the poppy. Good. I'm glad you're here, Brian. Sounds like you're already a few beers deep. I'm trying to catch up to you. Jonathan says it's 4-1. Yes, that is the score right now. Please keep us updated while we're doing this live show. I would really appreciate it. If it goes 5-4 and the Yankees start losing, don't tell me about the score no more. I don't want to cry on this show.
Absolutely. We'll move on to football, though.
Kenny, good to see you too, man.
Absolutely. We'll move on to football. Let's talk about your team last night, Drew, the Kansas City Chiefs. And in my opinion, is the kind of questionable call to play Mahomes, right? We were talking about beforehand, do you just give him a day off? Do you just give him an extra week to recover when you talk about going up against the Denver Broncos? Short week, going against the Broncos that, let's face it, not an offensive powerhouse. I know they've beaten the Titans and the Chargers in successive weeks, so they're on a little bit of an upswing, but they didn't look impressive in those games, in my opinion. The defense looked okay against the Titans. Joe Flacco looked hapless. And guess what he looked like last night?
The same.
Exactly. So, is it the right call, we were talking about this before the show, to run your quarterback in the second quarter on a dive play? Or should we maybe have gone digging into the playbook for something else?
It's a high percentage play. I mean, I think he's like 9 for 10 now, all time 4th and 1 dives. I mean, you were just trying to get a first down, but you just did it. I think it was during that drive where you did Anthony Sherman up the middle on an early 3rd and 1 and got it. It doesn't make sense now, but let's just be completely honest. This is an injury that can happen literally anybody. It's not like it was. It's literally just one of those fluke injuries. I know pretty much all of them are, but this one truly is a fluke injury. You could step off of your chair right now and dislocate your kneecap. For him, he's playing football and got hit. A little bit different. This isn't an ankle, so it's not like he re-injured an ankle and is out for a while. That being said, I still go back to why play him. I don't think you had any worries about this Broncos team beating the Chiefs. I think if you gave Matt Moore plenty of time to practice, those 3 days of practice with the first team, you guys would have won this game regardless. Would it have been 30-6? No, it might have been 14-6. But still, to me now, in hindsight, it was a terrible decision to play the guy. As far as the call goes, yes, they could have picked something else, but I don't really blame anyone. I don't blame Andy Reid. I know in the Chiefs Nation right now, everyone's going nuts and saying, what a terrible call by the coaches. How do you call that play? He's already banged up. He didn't hurt his ankle, guys. This could have been his shoulder that he banged up. This time it was his kneecap.
I've also heard people say, on the other hand of things, when you do have an ankle injury or a knee injury on one leg, you overcompensate on the other, and that's kind of what happened in this situation is he was leaning more on the right leg, wound up taking injury to the right leg. They say you're more likely to do it. I'm still in the camp that they should have arrested him. Again, Denver's a division rival. I get it any given Sunday, but have you seen the way they've been playing this year? I think you have to go and give Matt Moore the start in this game and just give him a week off. I don't care if he wants to play or not. There's a reason you're the head coach, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to make these tough decisions that says, maybe I need to rest my quarterback. Now you've got to go through 3 tough games coming up at the very least without your quarterback, and you're lucky. Because a lot of times when you dislocate that kneecap, you can tear pretty much every ligament in your knee by doing so. This could have been a 12-month injury we were talking about with Patrick Mahomes. And as much as I like Matt Moore in the way he looked last night, and I still think he's a solid backup in the NFL, even though you were saying nobody wanted him before the season, I think
it was a joke.
I know. I still think when you look at it, that's better than missing Pat Mahomes for 12 months, and you have to roll with this guy for the next year and a half.
It's even missing him for 1 week to get healthy is better than missing him for a month. Justin says, good to see you, man. He says, the Madden curse is real.
Isn't it, though? I think, did anyone get it worse than Antonio Brown, though? Let's ask that, because I think it sent him crazy.
Ian says, welcome back. Welcome to the world of backup quarterback. He goes, I know you're feeling. Kenny asked, how will Matt Moore perform against, I'm assuming you mean the Packers next week, because as far as he performed against the Broncos, be honest with you.
He was 10 of 19 for 117 and a touchdown.
He played really well for 0 snaps the first round, our first team offense.
Right, and talking about a half for a backup quarterback, that's not a bad half. Especially if things were tight early, and we were talking about this. They should have come out more aggressive. Yeah. They should have come out and thrown the ball down the field a little bit more. They were in almost prevent victory mode.
It was very vanilla.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Let me talk about the Broncos really quick, and then we'll move on. How bad does this mean that Drew Lock is? Because we've seen Joe Flacco struggle for 7 weeks. We're now hearing that their GM, Elway, is on the hot seat and potentially might be out of Denver. And yet there's no one calling, and there's no rumblings that maybe it's Drew Lock's time. Does that mean that they kind of swung and missed on him as a quarterback, or is this like a deep developmental project?
I mean, I don't think, unless there was something that I wasn't reading, and I don't think anybody thought Drew Lock was a week 1 starter. I mean, if that was the case, you would have seen him gone in the first round. Not saying that these scouts and these teams don't make mistakes, but no one really thought this about him. Yeah, they thought this guy could be talented at some point, but some development behind him. And you also don't go out and pay Joe Flacco a bunch of money to sit him on the bench. I mean, is it a bad sign? Maybe a little bit. But I don't know if this was their plan to start this guy in week 7 or week 6.
I'll give him credit. That I'm okay with the gut check. If you look at him and you say he's not ready, it's better than making that snap decision of, oh, well, Joe Flacco's not performing. Let's just cave to the media and bench Joe Flacco and start a guy who's not ready to win games. I think, again, you take the flack as the GM for that. Not that Elway has been the greatest since he's been there. I mean, outside of signing Peyton Manning, can you point to a single offensive move he's made that's been great? Phillip Lindsay, undrafted rookie, but that I think is more luck than anything. You can't tell me that was, by design, or you would have spent a 7th-round pick on the guy, right?
Yeah.
I think when you look at it, this is still the right move, and I give Elway credit here because this is where the crap falls onto him, where he could just kind of push it off on another player and bench Joe Flacco.
Yeah, definitely. Ian says he had his kneecap pushed back on his knee by a helmet, screwed his knee up forever. Sounds like you did some more damage than just dislocate your knee or your kneecap there, man. Maybe I'm wrong. Jonathan says he loves Andy Reid. I do too, man. I think he's a great coach, a Hall of Famer for sure. I'd like to end this. I know you want to talk about the Broncos. I'd like my last comments about this game to be about how this defense stepped up.
Sure.
We had 11.
And then I'll read Brian's comments, and then we'll move on.
We had 11 sacks going into this game. They finished with 20 sacks now. They had 9 sacks, had 11 tackles for loss, 1 touchdown, a fumble recovery for a touchdown. Reggie Ragland, good to see you back in the starting lineup. I mean, this is what this team needed, week 1 through week, 1 through 5.
Right.
This is what they needed. And if this defense can keep playing, yes, it's the Broncos. But anytime you get that first step moving in the right direction as far as the defense goes, this is a great thing because they're going to have a heck of a test next week against the Packers.
To the credit, they stepped up when they needed to. I think arguably, yes, you'd like to see it all season long, but as long as they step up in the times that they need them, it's worked so far. Let me go through a couple of these comments and we'll move on to the actual action still up to come up. That didn't make any sense. We'll move on after this. Brian says, after Flacco signed that post-Super Bowl contract, he's never played the same. And let me say this. He didn't play that well that entire year. He was okay. He wasn't like an MVP caliber guy. He wasn't like Matt Ryan, who had one of the best quarterbacking years that anyone's had like in the modern era. It wasn't like Cam Newton's year where he had an MVP. He was just okay and then got hot for the playoffs. And when I say got hot, I mean Champ Bailey missed an easy interception or we were not going to be talking about this guy. I think Joe Flacco's always kind of been what he is, right? I think we kind of overrate him a little bit because he won a Super Bowl and everyone's ready to always crown Super Bowl winners is great. I'm not bringing up Eli, okay? This is all Joe Flacco.
You just brought him up, dude.
I know.
Brought him up. Ivy, good to see you. She says she can't believe how much Joe Flacco has declined. Okay, I do want to say, I guess I'm going to say more about this game because this has been brought up. Couple things here. First of all, Fangio is a defensive coach. They didn't bring in an offensive-minded coach. So the offense, in my opinion, is going to kind of slack just a little bit because they want to lean on strength. The strength of their defense. Yeah, they were ranked 4th overall going into this game, but looking at last night, they kind of struggled. They lost a lot of players, especially like Chubb. I don't want to sit there and blame. That's the reason why Joe Flacco isn't doing well. What I do want to blame is this offensive line is atrocious.
Yeah, I agree. And they've spent to fix it, and it just doesn't work.
And you can get mad at Joe Flacco or Drew Lock, whoever you put in there. I think it's all going to look the same because they cannot have enough time to release the ball. They got to change this play calling for this offensive line being so bad. It's got to be quick releases. It's got to be screens. It got to be draw plays.
And Flacco has never been the quick release guy, right? He's always 5 steps, and they're trying to maximize that or trying to copy that. But it didn't really work in Baltimore.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. That's it. You're nailing it right on there. It's
stealing your points.
No, you're fine. It was perfect. It was just like you got the wrong quarterback for the way your offense is playing.
Right.
That's just the best way to put it.
I totally agree.
You got speedsters that love to go down the field, but you don't have time for your quarterback to step back and do it.
And I'll be honest with you, I kind of expected signing Mike Munchak to Denver actually would have solved this problem. They would have had the miracle situation like they had in Pittsburgh where the offensive line was not playing very well. You signed the new offensive line coach and career veteran that's always had great offensive lines and things just magically get better overnight. It hasn't happened in Denver. The offensive line still does not look very good. I still like Munchak. I think going forward, they have a better chance to fix it with him there rather than getting somebody else. But I think it's a talent thing. I think they're betting on the wrong guys, and a lot of their draft picks, like Bowles, have not worked out. They haven't done a good job signing guys. They've invested in this offensive line. The Broncos are still broken. I think we all kind of recognize that. Eventually, Emmanuel Sanders is going to get to the point where he can't carry the load. Even though Cam Sutton's getting the numbers with Joe Flacco, I don't think he needs to be the focal point of this offense like they're trying to make him. They're trying to move on from Emmanuel Sanders, but when you've got talent, you got to use it, and I think that's costing him a little bit too. The ball should be in Emmanuel Sanders' hands more than it is right now. I think a lot of it's stubbornness. And if they block, these running backs will blossom like we think both Rolls-Royce and Phillip Lindsay can do, but you got to win in the trenches first in the NFL. That's the long and the short of it.
No doubt about it. Jonathan and Chris both agree that he's overpaid, not good. Kenny says, do you guys think the 49ers D will shut down Case Keenum from getting the ball to McLaurin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is a tough one. If you have to play him in fantasy, do it. I go with my blessing, I guess, because McLaurin has been good to this point, but the 49ers defense has been making plays this season, and I don't really see this offense, which is absolutely terrible, really stepping up in a big way. Maybe McLaurin is the best guy to bet on. I still don't love the matchup if you got to start him in fantasy.
They're going to force the ball to him. If anyone's going to have multiple catches, I think it's going to be him. But I wouldn't rely on him to throw your fantasy team over the top.
And the rest of this receiving group, they're going to focus on McLaurin. I think the secret's out on him. They're going to do everything they can to take him away first.
And let's not forget he's a rookie.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not betting on him in fantasy, but if you have to play him, you have to play him and just hope for the best. We'll move on. Let's talk about the Rams and the Falcons. Our first game of the week. Drew, starts at 1 o'clock this week. No London game. I'm glad because I hate getting up. I love football all day, but I hate getting up that early on a Sunday when I could be sleeping in a little bit.
It's not even that early.
It's early.
It's 9:30.
It's early. If you're
half the day's already
If you're
gone.
a night owl. Okay, yeah. If you're a night owl, that's pretty early. I look at this Rams game, and I look at the Falcons and the way they've been playing, and I got to say, I don't know who to pick here because the Rams' offensive line has been so terrible. There's a good chance that these underperforming defensive players on the front of the defensive front of the Falcons could make an impact and could win there. And if you pressure Jared Goff and you have the offense that you have, I know Jalen Ramsey's going to be there for the Rams, but Jalen Ramsey's not covering Julio, Calvin Ridley, and Mohamed Sanu, and Austin Hooper, and Devontae Freeman. He's going to cover one of those guys, and there's going to be 4 more of them that are probably going to be open in the secondary.
Right. During the offseason, we took the Falcons to win this game, especially because it's in Atlanta. But like I told you guys last week, I'm done picking the Falcons. They have disappointed me over and over again.
They're dead to him.
I thought this team was it is way too talented to play and have the record that they have. But you could say the same side on the other side is the Rams are doing the exact same thing. But I like the addition of Jalen Ramsey. I believe he will shut down Julio Jones. I do agree with you that that's only one part of the problem. There's so many others. But I think that really what this relies down to is the fact that the Rams' offense was embarrassed.
Right.
I get that that offensive line was absolutely destroyed, but there's too much talent over there. Even if Gurley doesn't go, there's so much talent in that receiving core. 78 yards, that's not going to be repeated.
I also think you got to look at this game and say, if the Rams get dominated on the offensive front, don't pick them I'm not going to pick them a whole lot for the rest of the season because, yes, they've been one of the worst offensive lines in football. Jared Goff can't succeed when he's under pressure constantly and they have no run game to support him. I think when you look at this game, this is one the offensive line needs to win. In my opinion, if they're going to be a Super Bowl threat, you're going to have to, at the very least, show up against the Falcons. And as bad as this defense has been, you got to win in the trenches this Sunday. If they don't, I'm out on the Rams. They may win some games because they have a bunch of receivers and they can throw a little bit. And Jalen Ramsey's there. Maybe he can kind of get the defense playing a little bit better than they were. But I'm still going to be out on him. I think this is all about the offensive line showing up and beating a bad opponent. And I don't know that they're going to do that. I'm still taking the Rams. I can't deviate from the plan here, Drew, but I'm worried about this game. I really am. I think I'm going to know after Week 7 what the Super Bowl hopes for the Rams are, or even the playoff hopes after this week.
Ian says he loves football starting at 10 on the West Coast. 10 and 1 o'clock games are perfect times.
Well, let me read this one too. I agree.
I was gonna say I've always kind of liked the Central Time Zone where they start at
noon is kind of cool. I agree.
It's nice. I was gonna get to Luke's comment too. I just didn't want to ignore Ian's. Go ahead. You can read it.
Luke says, I know you guys already covered this, but anyone else think that was a fake injury on Mahomes that was staged? Did you not see him pop his knee back into place on the field? Like, there's a bunch of stuff. If you go search for it where they zoomed in on it, you can literally see them pop the kneecap back into place in the field. I don't think it was staged at all. Why would you stage it, Luke?
Just sit him.
Exactly. Why not just say, man, his ankle's been stomped on like 3 weeks in a row. We're just going to sit him. I don't understand the thought process behind it, but maybe you can explain. We'll read that comment too. I don't think it was fake. No. When I'm seeing the guy's kneecap move around when they're pulling his leg and snapping it back into position, I don't think it was fake.
No,
that's all I can say.
And Ian, I didn't mean to ignore your comment earlier. I just spaced out and remembered again. Kaepernick to the Chiefs is not happening.
Or anyone. I think by now the NFL, if it was going to happen, it would have happened. It's almost 3 years, right?
It's not happening.
Yeah,
it's not happening.
Let's talk about the Dolphins and the Bills because we're contractually obligated to.
Well, I'm excited to watch the Bills play. Let's see some offense out of the Bills.
We better. Honestly, isn't it about time? I mean, I got Josh Allen starting at quarterback. I need 30 points.
I mean, I think it's realistic. You're talking about, what is it? What are they, 4-1? Either you're saying playoff hopes, obviously, being 4-1.
Well, you got to win this one.
They have a great defense. It's time to see an offense flourish. I get it's Miami Dolphins. But I'm telling you right now, if they don't put up 30 points or plus on this Miami team, there's question marks on this offense.
Xavier Howard is questionable, even though we've talked about him in the past. I think he's Marcus Peters, but younger. Xavier Howard's going to be out. Rashad Jones is going to play. There's a bunch of holes in the secondary. I want to see John Brown get a little bit of action early. I want to see Cole Beasley involved. I want to see a couple of these other guys like Robert Foster.
For the Buffalo Bills.
It should be. But if it becomes that way because of a running attack, I'm okay with it. You know, I want to see a little bit of the receivers early, and then you can control the clock and run afterward. If you win this game 26-3 because you just grind clock for like 2.5 quarters, I'm okay with that too. It doesn't need to be 40 points for me to be like, oh, the Bills are legit now.
It needs to be around 30.
But I want to see the receivers make some catches.
26.
I want to see the Bills receivers make a little bit of an impact in this game. It's a beat up and bad secondary on top of it. Well, the secondary is good when they're healthy, but not a good defense. They're all beat up right now. Show me something that proves that John Brown and Cole Beasley are worth the money you gave them in the offseason rather than you just spending on anybody with a name to bring in any kind of receivers to help out Josh Allen.
Kenny, I don't want to ignore your comment, man, but if you could just be patient and wait until we get to that.
We are going in order. Believe me, we're going to talk about the Titans.
When we get
I'm not
going to
let that get by.
I promise we will get to everything that you ask. I just don't want to get off course, so we'll never get through this list. Brian does say the Falcons may have contracted the 90s Bills curse.
Except the Bills made the Super Bowl four times
in a row,
yeah. Falcons got one and then lost Kyle Shanahan. And, wow, you know who looks good with Kyle Shanahan? The 49ers. You know who else looked good with Kyle Shanahan? Kirk Cousins, if I remember right, in Washington. It's almost like Kyle Shanahan would have looked great in two-tone blue here in Nashville, but we didn't sign him.
And Kenny,
I think he's one of the underrated offensive minds in the game.
Kenny, don't worry about the mix-up, man. It happens all the time. Luckily, I fixed it for you.
And Ian also says he kind of hopes Miami wins. Kind of scary if the Steelers have a winless team next week. Hate to be Miami's first win. I still think you're going to be okay.
I think you'll beat the Miami Dolphins.
I do too. I think I'm taking Steelers in that matchup. Spoiler alert for a week from now.
Yeah,
but
could be fun.
If you look at Pittsburgh, you have no incentive to lose that game. You traded your first-round pick to go get Minkah Fitzpatrick from them. I think, again, he's going to be motivated in that game. Run the ball a little bit. I think you beat Miami.
Luke says, haven't seen those videos, but I do understand why not just sit him. It just happened like a weird coincidence since his ankle has been off for a couple of weeks.
And we were saying sit him before this. We really were, Luke. But there are videos where you can go, it's zoomed in on the picture where you can see literally the trainers come out there and they have to snap his knee back into place with the dislocated kneecap. And then he walks off. And from what I heard, and I read some stuff about this, everyone says while it's kind of like dislocating your shoulder, but worse, when it's out of socket, it feels like you're going to die. It feels like your leg's going to come off. And then they snap it back in there and you're like, oh, okay, I don't hurt so bad anymore. It still hurts, but it's like the pain goes from 10 to a 4 afterward, especially if you don't tear any ligaments. So that's why you saw him walk off the field. I understand the skepticism, but once they got that kneecap back into place, he was probably in good enough shape to walk off.
To be honest, man, if it's like keep his consecutive starts in a row like going, you play him for one series, you sit him. I mean, there's no...
Don't worry about those meaningless stats.
But I mean,
sit him and win a Super Bowl.
Those matter to some people.
But they shouldn't.
But they do.
But they should not.
This is their career.
It mattered to Eli, and they benched him anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It matters to some people.
Okay, but what is Eli playing for? You're playing for a Super Bowl.
This wasn't a fake injury. This, unfortunately, really did happen. It is what it is, and now we won't get to see Mahomes play for over a month. That's just plain and simple. Brian says, oh, snap. Nice presentation, fellas.
I think he's talking about the cans. Thank you, Brian. We appreciate that. We try. We really do.
It was one drunken moment. We're like, oh, we could do this.
Exactly. Ian says, worst pain he's ever had, snapping his kneecap back into place. I can sympathize. I've never done it with my, well, sort of. I've never done it with my knee, but I've dislocated my shoulders before. Let me tell you, it ain't fun. It sucks. And then you pop it back into place, and you're like, oh, God, I feel like a lot better. Like I said, you go from a 10 to a 4 on the pain meter.
Luke says, why quarterback sneak him when his ankle was off?
Exactly. That's what I was saying. There are other plays you can run. You know what you can do?
High percentage guaranteed play. He's like 9 for 10 on third and 1, 4th and 1 dives.
Roll the old play action bootleg instead.
It's a high percentage play that someone in Eric Bieniemy's head or Andy Reid's head were like, this is the highest percentage play to get the first down. And that's what was done. Is it the right play? No. Because in hindsight, he's hurt. So now, you're kind of like, you could have ran Anthony Sherman up the middle. You could have just kicked a field goal and been up 13 to whatever it was at that point. Like, it doesn't make sense now. But then, even though I don't like the play call, and obviously I don't want it to happen, it makes the most sense on completing to get to the first down.
Play action bootleg. Come out there in the goal line situation where you have 3 tight ends. Hear me out.
It's not a high enough percentage.
Oh, it's a high percentage. You go out there, you fake the handoff to McCoy, you roll it out, you have 2 tight ends, one up about 10 yards deep, one literally running the flat that you can throw to.
Against the 4th overall defense.
Yes, exactly. You do that, and they have a 4th down where they have 1 yard to go. They're going to think it's a run. They're going to sell it to McCoy. You're going to have one guy to defend 2 tight ends, and guess what? You pick which one you want to throw it to. You get the first down. You don't dive with your quarterback in the second quarter when Joe Flacco is the opposing quarterback. You just don't do it.
It's not the right move now.
No, it's not the right move then. I would have said the same thing. My injured quarterback, I'm diving up the gut with him, which is still one of the most injury-prone plays for a quarterback.
Tom Brady runs up the middle all the time.
And every time I see it, I'm like, why are you doing it? There are times where it's needed, right? When you're playing a good team, fine, I get it. It's what needs to be done to win a game because, like you said, it's a very high percentage play. Most teams get it about 80% of the time. But when your guys having knee injuries, it's the Broncos, you're the Chiefs. Why take the risk? Put Matt Moore in there and let him dive it. I don't care.
You should have never been playing this game.
I agree. But I understand play to win the game. Like you said, play to win, play 100% if you're out there. Be smarter about it.
It's the highest percentage completion to get the first down.
Yep.
It's just
and Matt Moore can do it too.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
And you're not the first team to put your backup quarterback in there to do it. And they may know it's coming, but can they stop it?
It's true. It's true.
All right. Couple more here. Kenny says he's excited to see the Vikings and Lions game, to be honest. I agree. I think that's going to be a good one. I think we'll talk about that in a little bit too. But the Lions and the Vikings game, which is coming up here in just a sec, looks like a pretty good one. I think both of these teams have legit playoff hopes. Edward says the Titans suck, and he loves it. Let me just say, my backup quarterback's better than your backup quarterback. Hurts my heart, man. But go ahead, take your chance, because this team will eventually be good. Maybe not before I die, but they'll eventually be good. Brian says, I've never run my phenom up the middle. Banged up, meh. Yeah, now imagine it's your 42-year-old quarterback and Tom Brady. Every time I see it, I'm like, it's the fourth quarter, right? It's like you're winning by like 3 scores, right?
Does it anyways.
Exactly. So, terrible.
Brian also goes off, says, but I'm just a landscaper, not Andy Reid.
Yeah, well, you've got the same number of Super Bowls as Andy Reid.
It's true. So do I.
All right, we'll move on. Let's talk about the Jaguars and the Bengals. Again, only because we have to. Here's where Minshew Mania comes back, because Minshew's going to tear up a bad defense, and then I'm going to get to hear how the stash is returned.
I heard he's actually already donated his time after the game to help pick up the stadium after the victory.
That is very kind of him, number one. And number two, are there any Bengals fans showing up to make a mess of the stadium? So it might be a pretty hollow promise there, because I think the Bengals, if anything, are racing the Dolphins for the first overall pick. Both teams totally defeated. AJ Green is talking about coming back. That's exciting, but he won't play in this game. The Jaguars should have no problem frustrating this offense. I hate that I have to start Auden, what's his name? Their receiver who's come out of nowhere. That's not Tyler Boyd, the other one.
Oh, John
It's
Ross?
Auden Smith, I think.
Yeah. Eden? Auden?
Yeah, I think it's Auden.
Is it Auden?
Eden, maybe? I'm disappointed I have to start him in fantasy. I don't know what his name is.
You're starting him?
This week, yeah. Everyone's on bye. It's a tough week for me.
Sucks.
We're starting him. No, I'm just kidding. We're not. In one of my other leagues, I'm starting him. But I'll take the Bengals here to lose this game. I'm not taking them to win. I think the Bengals are going to get frustrated by a Jaguars defense that will be glad to have the thorn in their side of Jalen Ramsey gone. I think they've been playing well without him the past 3 weeks anyway. I don't really see this as a major kind of issue for them. Look for Minshew to be able to throw when he needs to. The Leonard Fournette should have a good week. This is all Jaguars.
Luke, don't worry about it, man. It was fun. Trust me. You're not the only one that does it. We do that even when the camera's not on. So you're good, man. No apologies needed. Jonathan says AJ Green will play for Philly next week. He's already seen the trade.
Do you need him? Is that the problem? I mean, when you have Alshon Jeffrey and you have Deshaun Jackson and you have Nelson Aguilar and you have Zach Ertz and you have Dallas Goedert, does AJ Green get you to the Super Bowl? I think they need secondary players. I would have more likely believed that this was Jalen Ramsey wearing a Philadelphia uniform than I do AJ Green. Unless you get a deal, I don't think receiver gets you over the hump, if that makes sense, Jonathan. I know you're a big Eagles fan. I don't know that AJ Green gets you over the hump, and he's probably a short-term investment. I mean, he's 31. He's got to be 32 next season. He's had a bunch of serious injuries here for these past few years. Despite what he can do when he's on the field, eventually he's probably going to get hurt for you. I don't see you making that kind of investment. Maybe they beat the Cowboys and they say the receiver gets us there. But I think you're going to go another direction. If you're trading for anyone, I think you're going to try to bring someone into the secondary.
Frank, good to see you, man. As far as that goes, Jonathan, dude, to be honest with you, I know you're a fan of the Eagles. I know as every fan believes that their team could win a Super Bowl, but how open is that window for you? You got a young quarterback. Why go off and trade draft picks for an aging receiver? Is your window so open to win a Super Bowl this year that you need to get it done? To be honest, man, save your draft picks, draft into that secondary, and come back next year where you might be looking at a bigger window open for you. You got Deshaun Jackson. You got Alshon Jeffrey. You got Nelson Aguilar. I mean, you could pick up another receiver in this draft. Like, to trade draft picks away to get someone like AJ Green is literally saying we can win a Super Bowl right now. And trust me, I'm not knocking on the Eagles, but how open is that door for them to go back and win a Super Bowl?
Right. And Frank says, but Frank kind of goes the other direction. He says, look what Cooper did last year for them boys. Look, Frank, I'll agree with you, but look at the receiving corps before and after Amari Cooper got added. The Eagles don't have that problem. They've got names. They've got guys, right? Yeah. The Cowboys had nobody, and then you bring in a Pro Bowl or former Pro Bowl wide receiver in Amari Cooper that kind of fell from grace with his current team. You don't have that with the Eagles. Alshon Jeffrey's a good receiver. You have other guys that can get stuff on. You just drafted Arcega-Whiteside. You have a lot of weapons in this receiving room. I think they need to do a better job protecting. They need to do a better job of running the ball. And then they need to play a little bit of defense, and they'll be fine. I think the secondary is the massive glaring hole right now.
I'm with you, too. If it was Ramsey that they were trading for, I'd be like, yeah, this makes sense. If it's Patrick Peterson they're trading for, I'd be like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. But for me, A.J. Green, like you said, doesn't put you over the hump. A.J. Green doesn't open up that door for me this year to win a Super Bowl. I think there's a lot more of the question marks the Eagles need to fix before they're going to find themselves in their Super Bowl. It's not a knock. Is A.J. Green going to make your team better? Yeah, I think he's going to make any team better getting A.J. Green.
And Edward says, unless they get him for nothing, but the Bengals have already said they want a first-round pick for him. I think they settle for less than that. I don't think anyone gives up a first-round pick for a 31-year-old that's constantly hurt, regardless what A.J. Green has done in the past. I don't think you can spend that on a guy that's that old, that the window needs to be open like this minute and likely to close for you to give up that first-round pick. I really don't see a team going and spending a first-round pick that could turn into a 10-year career on a guy that might give you one good year or a back half of a year that gets you a Super Bowl win. Also, Jonathan says, is there a great corner on the block right now? There was. His name was Jalen Ramsey. And they obviously missed out to the Rams because they didn't want to pay the price. But I don't hate that. Again, the Rams have paid a lot to go bring in a guy like Jalen Ramsey. Is there another one?
There's a lot of rumors. There's Patrick Peterson. There's Chris Harris Jr.
There are guys. It's just, are you willing to pay the price? And that's always the biggest thing with trades, especially on the deadline. Are you willing to pay the price to go out there and get them? I think Patrick Peterson would be the guy I target. I try to give up a second-round pick for a guy coming back from suspension and will probably be pretty fresh. He's 30. They may not want to give him up because they're trying to build a team, and having a great defensive leader can help with that with Peterson. But then again, he's a 30-year-old cornerback. How long do they stay great? Not very long. Historically, not very long.
But if you're talking about making a run for the Super Bowl,
well, yeah, for the Eagles, it makes sense. I'm saying
this is who you go out and
maybe the Cardinals do part with him. I think Peterson might be the look if you're the Eagles.
This is who you go for sure. Well, let's go over to the next game. I think we're all going Jaguars across the board. We did during the offseason. We're going to do
I'll repop. I'll let you keep going. Talk about the Vikings and the Lions.
Yeah, we're going to go where the Minnesota Vikings go on the road to Detroit Lions. Ian, where you at, man? This is your boys right here. I know you're not a Lions fan, but you've been rooting for them. During the offseason, we actually took the Lions to win this game. I am actually going to go with the Vikings. I'm going to go with the hot team right now. I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins, throwing the ball ever since they called him out and said, hey, you can't do it anymore. You're no good.
Thank you, Zach Brown.
Blah, blah, blah.
Former Titan, by the way.
This guy has been ripping NFL secondaries apart. I know that the Lions have a good defense. I don't think that this is going to be a blow-away game by the Vikings by any means. I think this will be a very close game. But so far, what it seems for the Detroit Lions and all their magic of this year is we know how to lose or tie a game when we shouldn't. And that's literally it, and I'm going to stick with that, and I think the Vikings win this game.
Sometimes you just got to know how to win, and I look at that kind of team and the way they've played. Yes, they've battled teams like the Chiefs. They've battled teams like the Cardinals, and they've battled and battled and battled, but they always seem to come up short. I know they're 2-2-1, so it's not the end of the world, but the Lions, to me, are still a team that's probably a year away. I like their mentality. I like the way they're playing. I just think the Vikings defense is going to have enough to slow down Matt Stafford and company. They're not going to be able to run the ball realistically here. It's going to be on Matt Stafford to go and throw for 330 yards, and we haven't seen him do that a whole lot since Patricia's got there. Sorry. I think the Vikings with Kirk Cousins will do enough. They're still going to try to keep Stephon Diggs happy, so they'll throw a little bit more. Dalvin Cook's a great running back. The Vikings have to be the favorite here. I'm going to stay a little chalky myself and say the Vikings win this one.
Ian says that he's going for Detroit, but the NFL wants the Vikings to win. The refs win this game for Minnesota. I don't think so, man. I honestly don't. I think it's been for sure. Last week's game was controversy with the play calling. I think when that
But they had their chances to win early, too. Like having 12 men on the field when they're trying to kick a field goal, so you give them a first down and they score a TD off of it. Not catching that touchdown pass that was in and out of T.J. Hawkinson's hands. They've had their chances.
Usually when a big call like that happens and they get that team next week, they're usually a little bit more standoffish on calling those plays. But you can, and I said this last week, you cannot blame that loss completely on the rest, man. You don't kick 5 field goals to beat Aaron Rodgers. You score touchdowns.
Now, Ian also says Hawkinson and Kerryon Johnson both have a big game. I don't think Kerryon Johnson's having a big game this week. I think the Vikings defense, even though it's not as dominant as it was in 2017 with a lot of the same guys, they're still looking pretty good. They're looking much better than they did last year. I think this is a team that is going to frustrate this offense for the Lions, and I've kind of been down on them for a long time, and they've kind of surprised me to this point. They haven't quite lived down to my expectations. They've been better than that, but I really don't see them dominating this defense. I think this is going to come into a lower scoring shootout, and I think Kirk Cousins is going to have enough time to distribute the ball. It's not going to be a big win either way. I think this is probably going to be like 24-21 or 25-22, some weird score like that.
I think it's going to be very close.
But I'm going to go Vikings here. I'll just bet on them. I bet against them last week. It's what's keeping Drew tied with me in our season running, pick battle, whatever you want to call it.
We have yet to go against picks yet. We've yet to do it.
Yeah, we've stuck. And you know what we're going to do? Stick on the next one when we talk about the Raiders and the Packers.
Steven's not in. He's our local Raiders fan telling us how crazy we are. During the offseason, we picked the Packers to win this game. It's in Lambeau. It's a tough place to play. I think the Packers are going to win this game. I almost used your saying about a team where I go fool's gold, but I do think a lot of people overlook this Raiders team, and I think that's the wrong thing to do. I do think this Raiders team is good, and I think that's why you see them get some of these victories against teams that arguably are better than they are. I don't think this is going to be the Packers scenario. I know the Packers are banged up. You got wide receivers that are hurt, but I don't think that they're going to go into Lambeau and dominate a team like they did the Bears in London. It just doesn't go that way when you're in your home field.
A couple more of these comments here. Kenny says the Lions defense will get turnovers. There's always the chance Kirk Cousins throws this game away with a bunch of turnovers, but again, that's the risk you take. I think this is like a 55-45 split. I'm going to take the Vikings 55% of the time winning this game. Luke also says the new rules with all the flags, it's 50-50 a ref's game. This is because the NFL overreacted to the Saints getting screwed in the NFC Championship, which is probably on purpose to get the Rams into the Super Bowl to build a fan base. And I'll take the tinfoil hat off here for a minute, but I think when you look at this, they told all these refs in the offseason, look, we want you to call more holding penalties. We want you to call stuff when you see it, as opposed to the past where it was a little bit more of a let the players play kind of scenario, which is why you're seeing a bunch of BS holding. You're seeing a bunch of defensive calls coming in. They are calling it much more ticky-tacky because of the backlash they got in the Saints versus Rams game in the NFC Championship. Has that made for better football? It has absolutely not. Do I think the Saints got screwed in that situation? Sure. But at the end of the day, you can't let one bad result ruin the rest of the game for you. I think that's what's happened. I think they need to go back and say, okay, if the penalty has something to do with the play, maybe we call it. But when you see an offensive lineman hold somebody 5 seconds after the ball is thrown, maybe we don't say anything about it. Maybe we just let it go.
Is as annoying as it is, guys, human error is part of what the NFL is and what makes this game great. Obviously, when they make these rules, sometimes they make a rule for a season and then next season it's gone. Things do change consistently in today's game. I mean, not even 3 years ago, we didn't know what a catch was in the NFL. Guys, I think we all kind of figured out what a catch is now. Things like this just...
It's like pornography. I know it when I see it.
It's just... Thanks, Jake.
Mm-hmm.
Things like this are just going to have to take time to develop until you figure out what's right and what's wrong. There's a lot of talk about how they're going to change the refereeing during games. They talked about, I've heard rumors kind of out there that maybe the head ref will be the guy, the eye in the sky scenario. Will he be over top and he actually won't be on the field and he'll be adjusting refs in the wrong spot and he'll be making the final calls and plays without it actually being on the field. He'll have that opportunity to see the cameras with all the 48 different views that the NFL once shot during this game, where he could slow it down, look at it, and call these plays right. But when you add that stuff in there, you're talking about the game progressing longer. You're talking about times where it's 3 hours. Now you're looking at 4 to 5 hours. And guys, let's not forget, this isn't more football. This is more waiting around until you see what happens.
I agree. Now, Brian says, what's the trophy for the NFL pick race? If Drew wins, I let him keep being on the show. If he loses... he gets the axe.
You can't do this show without me.
He did beat me last season by one game. If you think about how many games we picked, it was a very, very close race all the way to the end. That's what I get for picking the Buccaneers. We don't really have a trophy we just get to brag about it. I've been right twice now in the NFL draft. Let's see if you can win the old...
I got the most important thing, and that's I picked the right games during the pick 'em and lose 'em.
And it's not happening this year. It's not happening this year.
I got the belt.
All right.
I don't have it.
And I'm coming for it. All right. Ian also says he hates this game and he's hoping it's a tie, but unfortunately or fortunately, Green Bay takes it. Look, I think this is a game that if Oakland can find a way to win, we can talk about them being a legitimate playoff team, especially with the Chiefs having a banged-up quarterback, the Chargers seemingly no good, and the Broncos, well, you watched Thursday Night Football, didn't you? I think when you look at this game, it's got to be Packers. I think Josh Jacobs has a good day. Maybe they get off to a quick start, and the Packers come out flat and they beat them. I mean, they've done that a couple times to teams. They beat the Bears like that. They beat the Colts like that. You could argue they beat the Broncos like that. If the Oakland Raiders start fast, maybe they surprise the Packers too. I'm just willing to bet on the running game the Packers have. I'm willing to bet on Aaron Rodgers and the defense and everything else.
And the Smith boys.
It's time to prove that you're a legit Super Bowl contender. And this is another game that you gotta show up and prove it. It's not just the great teams. You got to beat the bad ones too.
Yep.
I'm going to go Packers. You're going to go Packers. The show went Packers. Let's stop agreeing. Let's talk about the next game.
Let's do it.
Houston and the Colts in an AFC South showdown, Drew. Both of these teams could lose this game, and it would warm my heart. But honestly, these are the number 1 and number 2 teams in the AFC South right now.
Right.
What do you see going on in this one?
Well, during the offseason, we took the Texans to win this game. We also thought that they fixed their offensive line. So far, what I've seen, they have not fixed that offensive line. And so what I've seen so far with the Colts defense and how they got all over my Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, that this defensive line and this pass rush that they got going on, if they could bring that that energy that they had against Kansas City, against the Texans, which they should. This is a division rival. I believe that they're going to put too much pressure on Deshaun Watson. Yeah, Deshaun Watson's used to this. He throws the ball accurately even when everyone's in their face. But this Colts team seems to not make mistakes to lose games. Though it does happen, and it can happen with every team, I think the less mistakes are going to be made on the Colts side of the ball, which allows the Colts to win this game.
The Texans secondary is in trouble with guys like Deshaun Gibson and Bradley Roby likely out for the Texans, even though neither one of those guys I think are a world beater. I like Deshaun Gibson a little bit better than I like Bradley Roby. They're still missing 2 of their top defenders in the backfield. They're also probably going to be without Jonathan Joseph, so they're pretty thin in the secondary level. That could help Jacoby Brissett here. I like the offensive line, but I think Houston does a good job of stopping the run week in and week out. The question to me is, can Jacoby Brissett outshoot Deshaun Watson? Malik Hooker's also going to miss this game for Indianapolis, more than likely. I think Deshaun Watson is the guy that I'm betting on here. I'm going to bet on him, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, beating a team like Jacoby Brissett and those great tight ends. I think it's going to be close. I don't think either one of these teams walks away with it unscathed or just like totally runs away here. I'm going to go with the Texans, though. I think Deshaun Watson's still the guy to bet on, even though I don't love him as a pick here. Even though I don't love them as a pick here, I think the Texans are going to eke out like a 28-23 win. Couple more comments here. Kenny says, do we think Le'Veon Bell will do any damage against the impeccable Patriots defense? I like him better than when Luke Falk was playing. If you took him in fantasy and you're asking me if you need to start him, you better be pretty deep if you're going to bench him. But no, I don't love the matchup. I think the Patriots are going to shut down the Jets offense again, regardless of who's playing quarterback.
You use them and abuse them, man. If you drafted them, you use them.
You already spent the pick. You might as well play him.
I'm kind of with Ian at, maybe not 100 yards, maybe like 69 on the ground, but I think he's going to get that other 31 in the air. I think that this guy's going to see the ball often. This is their playmaker. This is the guy that they went out and spent all this money for. They're going to give him the ball. The problem is, how productive is he going to be after he gets the ball? It's not going to be a whole lot, but you play this guy. It is what it is. Ian says this is a pick-em game for him, and he's picking Indy, and Luke says Colts as well. You're sitting there on alone during those. What are those idiots during the offseason picking the Texans for?
I know. Well, I'm not alone. We picked him. I'm with us in the offseason saying the Texans are going to win this game. Look, I like Indianapolis. We even picked them to lose this game with Andrew Luck playing.
Yeah.
Remember that?
We did. Yeah.
I think Houston is going to be the winner in the AFC South. I think they're going to need to win these games.
Fix their offensive line issues, too.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't.
We're
like they spent, but I was like, they're still bad.
Trying to fix them.
Yeah, I didn't love the pick, or I didn't love the move, trading 2 first rounds and like a third to bring in Kenny Stills, who's now out for the year, and an offensive tackle that's like top 15. I think when you look at the Texans, they're still going to win this game. I don't think the Colts defensively are going to be stout enough to totally take away Deshaun Watson. I'm going to go with the better quarterback here.
Kenny agrees with me. He says he likes 69 on the ground. Sharif, I'm so glad.
I like 69 in the air. You know what I'm saying?
I'm so glad.
You know what I'm saying.
I'm so glad you're in this Your love affair with Deshaun Watson just cracks me up, man. I get why you like him so much. I wanted to save this for on air. I really did. You put a post out there saying that Deshaun Watson outshined Patrick Mahomes in their matchup. I completely disagree with you, man. The team outplayed another team. Deshaun Watson ran the ball, but threw 2 picks. Patrick Mahomes threw 3 touchdowns and 1 interception.
But he's not bitter about it.
If I was going to pick one, it was Patrick Mahomes who outshined Deshaun Watson in individual performance.
Sharif also said Houston Texans offensive line in the last 2 games has allowed 0 sacks. Does that continue against Indianapolis? Most likely not. I still don't think they're great. I still really don't think they're a great offensive line. But they've been better over the short term. Maybe they keep that going this Sunday. I don't think it matters. I think Deshaun Watson can take 8 sacks in this game, and he'll probably still throw for enough yards, and they'll do enough on the other plays that they get this win. Again, I'm not a Jacoby Brissett guy. I know people are falling in love with him. You were telling me he's an MVP candidate before the show. I disagree with that.
What? Why not?
Because it's the Colts, and because there's games when he plays good defense where he puts up 170 yards. I think Jacoby Brissett is a very good quarterback in the NFL to the sense of he won't make a lot of mistakes.
He has a 94.9 quarterback rating.
Who's he played? It's not like Houston where they're playing the Saints
Chiefs?
and the Chiefs and everyone else.
He's played the Chiefs.
How good was he? Well, okay, he played the Chiefs defense. Great job, man. Did they win that game? They did, actually. Never mind. MVP, you heard it here first.
I didn't say he's going to win it. I said, you got to be in the talk about MVP.
Oh, he better not be. That's all I can say, because I don't know that my heart can take both your 2 quarterbacks in my division being in the MVP race.
Oh, man.
Anyway, we'll talk. We can talk about this one to death because I think this is, like everyone's saying, a coin flip. Yeah. Houston on the road is probably going to have a harder time with the Colts than they would at home. But I don't know, man. I'm going to go Houston here. You're going to go with the Colts. I'm going to stick with the offseason pick. You're going to go against the grain a little bit.
I am.
All right, we'll move forward here.
Sharif says, what to argue? Houston offense, 1st and 3rd down conversion, and 1st and red zone scores.
All great numbers. I agree with you.
I told you the team outperformed Kansas City, but Deshaun Watson alone did not outperform Patrick Mahomes. That was your argument, and I was just arguing back.
Well, my argument is their secondary wasn't good to begin with, and now they're all hurt.
True.
That's my argument. But I've said the same thing about the Chiefs, and they seem to keep winning games. So who knows? Maybe Houston does it too. Maybe I'm overvaluing secondaries in that kind of sense. We'll move forward here. Let's talk about our next game, which is the Cardinals and the Giants.
Let's do it.
Only, again, because we have to. Couple bottom feeders going at it this week. This has some pick implications here. Can the Giants continue their good run with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley coming back?
Well, during the offseason, we said that the Giants would win this game, but we also thought it'd probably be Eli Manning. Who knew when Eli Manning was going to get benched? Saquon Barkley is the difference maker here. Him coming back, in my opinion, still a weak defense. Saquon has a field day. I know they talked he might be on a snap count, but when he starts rolling out those, 8 to 15-yard rushes, they're just gonna let that guy flow, and he's just gonna tear him apart.
And they definitely don't have the defense to slow down Saquon Barkley in the running game. I think the offensive line is kind of under talked about, how they've been one of the worst units in football for the past few years, and they finally spent enough, and it's actually fixed it. They're not like some of these other teams like the Titans guaranteeing $100 million and they still suck to their offensive line, or the Broncos that have spent picks and brought in free agents to try to fix the offensive line, and they're still not any good. They've spent, and it seems like it's worked. Like, they're not great. They're not the best offensive line in football. They're not the Colts. But they're okay. They're in the middle of the pack. They're 15+, and that's good to hear. I think when you look at the Giants, they have a complete unit on offense, especially if Sterling Shepard plays. You've got Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate, Evan Ingram, a good offensive line, Saquon Barkley, and Daniel Jones. It seems like he can distribute the ball. That's a lot to love. I look at the Cardinals, I'm like, well, their quarterback looks okay. Like, he's getting some stuff done with a bad offensive line, and David Johnson, who doesn't seem to be too interested in making a big splash, and a defense that can't seem to find his butt with both hands. This is all Giants. I know Patrick Peterson's back this week, but this is all Giants.
Ray, what's going on, man? You missed a little bit, man, but luckily
we are here, so everything beforehand.
Luckily, you can go back and watch all of it. A lot of people are picking Cardinals. Shree says he likes the Cardinals here. Ian is going to go the Giants. He said the Cards' year is done. Luke is going for the Cardinals.
I don't think you're crazy taking the Cardinals. Again, the Giants still have a terrible defense. I know they've played a little bit better with a new quarterback that might have motivated these guys, but talent-wise, they're probably not one of the best units out there. They're probably bottom 5. Cardinals could win this game from a pure shootout perspective, but it's going to be... You flip the script and you talk about the Cardinals' defense trying to stop someone like Saquon Barkley and a passing game as good as they seem to have. It's a big ask for me. I got to go Giants here.
Yep.
I don't hate the Cardinals pick. I wouldn't agree. I don't agree with it.
Kenny's saying Johnson is going to run trained if his ankle doesn't hold him back.
He might, and because of the defense. This is a matchup game where David Johnson will go out and have a decent game, and we'll be like, oh, maybe he needs to stick around. Maybe he's still a great player.
Seen enough out of him.
Yeah, they've had their chances with him. Again, he can catch the ball. You've got Kyler Murray throwing the ball all over the place. He should be the check down.
Like, when he missed all that time, he hurt his
wrist. With a dislocated wrist. Well, it's different. It's not like the shoulder or the knee that
I get it, but
different type of joint.
His legs are okay, though. He's not the same player like he was his first couple of years. He's just not. Maybe it's the team around him.
Was it flash in the pan?
Maybe. Right now, it seems like it is.
All right. 49ers and Redskins. We've got to talk about this game, too. It's tough talking about the Redskins, isn't it?
It's tough. It is.
Case Keenum should be an MVP candidate. Not really, though. The way he's playing, you're a little disappointed.
This is the game Kenny asked about. We told him to wait, so let's go ahead and knock that.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the 49ers defense is going to dominate.
Can he hold back Case Keenum getting the ball to McLaurin?
But, and you're going to hate me for this, Case Keenum has had some games where he's thrown for 300-some yards against defenses that are okay. Okay? So follow me on this one.
I'm
potentially, listening. Case Keenum could put up some yards here. Is it going to be enough to stop the 49ers? Of course not. This Washington team's basically quit. They almost lost the Tank Bowl to Ryan Fitzpatrick last week. What are they playing for? They're playing for the first pick, and they're playing to decide if they trade that pick away or whether they go draft somebody to replace Dwayne Haskins.
They can't play for the first pick. They got to win.
Yeah, well, they've got one. All right, insurmountable, right?
Well,
the Dolphins will never win.
They're picking third.
Yeah, they're playing for the first pick.
Nah, they're playing for their jobs. This is, I don't know, man. I don't. Chris is saying, "Good to see you, man. The Skins are gonna have an upset here against the Niners." Ian's saying the Niners.
I think the running game will be fine. I think the 49ers will be able to run. And when they run and they don't rely on Jimmy G this year, it's worked really, really well. If you look at what Shanahan's done in the past with guys like Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, when you get that running game going, their offense is great. And I think that's going to be a kind of a similar theme here where the 49ers are going to get a little bit of the ground game going, and then it's off to the races from there. They're going to put up points. My question is, does Case Keenum answer back with Terry McLaurin and a bunch of whoever else's? What, Paul Richardson? Remember when you loved that signing? And you're like, it's a great... You loved it. You're like, great receiver. It was almost...
Never once said that.
You totally did forever ago.
No, did not.
He was... I'm blanking out on your man crush from Seattle. He was him.
Tyler Lockett.
He was Tyler Lockett before Tyler Lockett was a thing.
No, that is so
You just love everyone playing with Russell Wilson.
That is
you do.
So not true at all. Anyways... I gotta disagree with you, man. I don't think the Redskins are bombing this season to get the first pick.
Well, I don't think they're tanking, but I'm saying, can they win here? They're playing for the...
But that being said, the Niners are going to handle them easily. This defense, I agree. I think it was Sharif that said it, that this defense is young and fast. I completely agree with that. These guys are going to be all over this Washington Redskins offense. This is
Luke says Gold Diggers by 49.
This is another one of these games where the 49ers offense, kind of just like the Bills offense going against Miami, needs to put up big points. Because you can sit there and say this team has a great record, but we have yet to really see their offense flourish. It is time for this team to put up some points offensively to go, okay, this team might be for real.
And Steven, good to see you, man. He says 49ers easy. We did give the Raiders a little bit of love, if you want to rewind it. We didn't pick them, but we gave them a little bit of love. Also, in this game, I know a couple people are saying that, hey, maybe the Skins might cover this game, kind of like Sharif's saying, or maybe they can put up a fight, or maybe you bet on Terry McLaurin. I don't see it, man. I get it. You got a new head coach, and you're trying to impress, and everyone's like scared they're going to lose their jobs. So they're giving 100%, but weren't they supposed to be giving 100% the weeks before that too? I just don't think talent-wise this roster has what it takes to stack up in the NFL anymore. And Chris says, suck for Judy. I don't. Does Judy solve all your problems? Does one more receiver solve all the problems? I don't know that you're going to go spend a top 3 pick on a wide receiver here either. I think you might trade back and let someone go snap up a quarterback to like 5, 6, 7 and try to just to pull the RG3 on him, if you will, where you get as many picks out of that pick as you can.
Oh, man.
And Luke's going 49ers. I'm with you, man. It's kind of like Ian was saying, Kittle's going to kittle. This is going to be one of those games that the 49ers should win easily. Let's talk about my team next.
Hold on. Jacob says Jimmy G is overrated.
They haven't asked as much out of him this year. I think this is more of a protection kind of thing, where they're like, Jimmy G has gotten hurt a lot in the past. If we can run the ball first and then have him throw when we need to throw, he's good. He'll be good. When he's on the field, he looks very good. And that's probably enhanced by Kyle Shanahan and his offense. But I don't think we can say he's no good, right? We got to say he's got some talent. When you watch him play, he's had some pretty big moments to this point in his career. He's got a good winning percentage.
He's got the leadership that every kind of coach wants to have his quarterback to have. And this is what I'm talking about, Jacob, where these 49ers are going to win this game. That I don't have a doubt in. What I have a doubt in is can this 49ers offense prove to be considered one of the better teams in this league? I don't care what the record says. Put up 30 points against a team that's ailing. Mm-hmm. Make it a statement here where it's like, not only can we beat this team, we can beat this team and whip their butts by doing it. It needs to be a high-scoring affair for the 49ers to make me go, and I'm sure a lot of you to go, okay, this team might be for real.
Now, David said he's been absent from us for the past couple weeks because he's still mad about being a Lions fan. Not mad at us, but mad at the NFL. David, we get it 100%. It's tough not being a popular team, playing against some of the popular teams because the calls never seem to quite go your way. They got screwed. We kind of agree with that, but we also think that the Lions had their chances to win that game. You need T.J. Hawkinson to catch that touchdown pass. You can't have that too many men on the field penalty when they're trying to kick a field goal that gives them a first down. Look, it's a little bit of both, and this is part of having a younger head coach in Matt Patricia. That will eventually go away. You'll get a little more organized. Some of those penalties go away. Maybe Hawkinson, when he gets a little more experience, catches that touchdown instead. You can't let teams hang around in the NFL because the good ones will beat you, and the decent ones will beat you. So I'm with you, man. It sucks. I hate it for you. They definitely got screwed in a bunch of those calls last week. The question is, how do you respond? As a Lions fan, how can you respond to that? So we're glad you're back. That's what you need to be looking for from your team this week. And even though we didn't pick them, this is a great week to upset the Lions or the Vikings and show that this team is for real.
Jacob says he's taking the Niners, but all their wins have been by the run. This passing game for the Niners has not been there yet. I'll wait for Jimmy G to show up.
You know who else has had a lot of wins by the run? Seattle Seahawks, and we love them.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't ask Russell Wilson to throw a ton. He's usually efficient when he does, but you look at the Seahawks, they win on the ground too. The Ravens usually win on the ground. There's a lot of teams that's the game plan, right? Yeah. The Cowboys, up until like this season, have been a team that wins on the ground.
I mean, realistically, even the Patriots.
Yeah, the Patriots this year especially. They win on the ground, and in the couple past years, winning on the ground is okay. And then you ask your quarterback to throw when he needs to. A lot of good teams do that. If you play a little bit of defense and do that, you're a playoff team.
Well, let's go into your game, man.
Let's go into my game.
Kenny says, this is the Titans' week, Jake. And Ian says, as much as he thought the Chargers would take the West, which seems that they won't, Tennessee in a mild upset. He's already picking your Titans for you, buddy.
Well, thank you. I'm hoping the Ryan Tannehill start gives his team a spark. If you watched the Broncos game, I apologize for the way that looked all last week, but you could tell even when Tannehill came in and the chips were down, they were way behind. He looked like the better quarterback. Corey Davis suddenly existed again. He had like 3 catches when I think he's had 3 catches for the rest of the season. I think Tannehill's going to get the receivers involved a little bit. I think the Chargers secondary is not great. Melvin Ingram being out will help this unit for sure because the offensive line has been the biggest weakness. My question is, can the offensive line that's been guaranteed $100 million show up a little bit and protect Ryan Tannehill? I still expect sacks from the Chargers. I still expect to not be great, but maybe Derrick Henry has a decent day. Maybe they give Ryan Tannehill enough time to throw in a few of these plays and they pull off the upset. Denver beat them. We can too. Come on, man. I'm begging you.
This is a classic.
It's make or break.
This is a classic Titan game here
to show up for. And then we'll talk about we're a great team and lose the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, but I'm going to go against how that usually happens. I am kind of down on the weather as far as the Chargers go. They have really disappointed me. I thought they would be a team really competing in the West, kind of with Ian. I didn't think they'd win it, but I thought they would definitely compete, and they've kind of let me down on that scenario. But I think that being said, I think this is a game that the Titans are going to let slip through their fingers. I think Phillip Rivers is going to come in angry, mad, even if it's not the defense.
Well, he's trying to pick a fight with a cornerback last week.
I mean, this guy, he's going to come in, he's going to chuck the ball over the place. And as terrible as the Chargers have looked so far, it's not like their talent isn't there. They're still a very talented team.
The Titans through 6 weeks have not allowed 20 points. I think that streak breaks this week, but I think Ryan Tannehill will have the offense firing on enough cylinders where they'll be able to match that. I'm going to take the Titans 26-23 here. I think we're underrating just what this offense can do when they actually have a quarterback that's not got a messed up arm like Marcus Mariota does. And I'm not saying that to say he's bad. I'm saying I still think his elbow is injured from when he had the nerve damage from last season. I think if they get anything going through the air, and they're likely to in this game, they're going to be able to score points on the Chargers. The question is, can the Chargers score enough against the Titans defense? Has been absolutely fantastic this year, and they're still sitting at 2-4. Regardless, one of these teams wins this game and is sitting at 3-4 and still has hope. The other team at 2-6, off with their head. They're done. I don't think either of these teams, when you look at the Texans, and you look at the Chiefs and the Raiders and the Colts and the Jaguars, all out in front of these guys, if you're at 2-6, you're playing for the pick at that point. The season's over.
I think Chargers win this game. I'm going to stick with our off-season pick. We picked the Chargers to win it as well. I just think this is a game that Tennessee typically loses. This is the matchup.
Well, we show up for some good games, and then we show up, and then we lose to the Bills.
This is not a good team right now.
Well, okay, I'll give you that.
And that's the issue here.
They just lost to a third-string quarterback. Pretty sure a backup quarterback will be fine.
That being said, I still think the Titans' offense is going to look a lot better than what it has recently. There's a lot of you guys are going Titans. We know Kenny's going Titan, being a Titans fan.
Titans fans in the comments this week. Thank you, guys.
Steven says Tennessee wins. The Chargers are the same old Chargers. They will lose as many games as they should win. Rivers is an overrated crybaby, says a Raiders fan.
And Sharif also says the Titans will win 11-8. This won't be 11-8. This won't be 11-8. Either it'll be 25-6 because the Titans couldn't get their offense going and they lost 25-6, or it'll be 26-23. I think Phillip Rivers will find a way to take advantage of our secondary. That even though the Titans aren't giving up points, there are still weak points. Adoree Jackson is up and down where he makes great plays and then gets burned a lot. Malcolm Butler is up and down. Logan Ryan seems to be the only consistent cornerback in the set. They're gonna score points. The question is, do the Titans score points too, or do the Titans have a bad offense? I think the Titans score points too with Ryan Tannehill.
Sharif, I'm never bitter about...
He's a little bitter.
About what?
About the Chiefs. And him saying, because they lost to the Texans. It's over. Season's done.
I see you in the playoffs, man. If you make it. I will.
This just in. Mahomes out for the rest of the season.
We're still making the playoffs because the West sucks.
All right. Now, Kenny's saying Eckler will get shut down. Potentially, but also they have Melvin Gordon. I think Melvin Gordon's the guy who gets shut down, and Austin Eckler's the guy who kind of lights the defense up there. We're like, damn, why can't we stop this guy? If he comes in fresh, I like Austin Eckler better than I like Melvin Gordon this week. If you're playing one of them in fantasy, and I have both of those guys, I'm going to go Eckler here. I think they start with Melvin Gordon, soften up the Titans' defense. Titans' defense plays well early. Then you have those big runs from Eckler towards the end of the season. That's been happening more this season than has in years past. I think the Titans' defense is still fine. They're going to give up 23, and we'll be talking about, man, they didn't play their best game. But I think Tannehill is going to have the receivers engaged to the point where the Titans could win this game.
I think it's going to be a good game.
And Ian's saying almost like 11-9 the Chargers-Steelers game years back. It's not going to be low scoring. I think the Chargers are putting up points here. I think Phillip Rivers is going to be pissed that they just lost to a third-string quarterback and that they're sitting at 2-4 with Pat Mahomes out and the Raiders in front of them. They're smelling blood in the water. They're going to score some points. Yeah. I know regardless of what you think of Phillip Rivers, he's great in these regular season matchups. I think he's going to be fine against the Titans. He's going to look good. The question is, do the Titans answer back against this weak secondary, against this weak defense that we've seen so far of the Chargers? I'll roll the dice with Tannehill.
I'm picking the Chargers. Like I said, the Titans are still going to play a good game.
Remember, Tannehill's playing for a contract.
All right, let's go on to the next game.
Let's move on. Let's talk about whoever else. They don't matter. We just talked about the Titans. Saints and Bears. I'm just kidding. This might be my game of the week, even though it might be between two backup quarterbacks.
Trubisky's going to play. I fully believe he's going to play. I don't think he's a difference.
I've heard it's a game time decision.
I think he's going to play. I'm telling you, I think he's going to play.
I think they need him to.
I don't think it's going to make a difference, though. I think the Chicago Bears defense is embarrassed. And I know that the Saints have been playing really, really well. Mm-hmm. And I have normally picked with the Saints. The last couple of weeks since Drew Brees has gone down, I said, don't worry, the Saints team is going to rebound and rally around everybody else and make a difference here. I think now it's going to be the opposite. I think here's your low-scoring game. I think here's your 11-9 game.
Yes.
But I think it's going to be on the Chicago Bears defensive back that makes this game. The difference might be a defensive touchdown that one of these defenses do. If it's the other way, it wouldn't surprise me. But I'm a pick with our off-season pick. I'm gonna stick with the Bears to win this game.
I am too. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm flipping. I'm just kidding. I'm taking the Saints. Even though Sharif says the Saints will dominate, both lines are sick. The D-line will get to the quarterback. That is likely to happen. I don't think the offensive line is going to keep any jersey clean against the Bears. I think they got embarrassed.
Hey,
in London.
Kenny. Hey, good luck trying to find your new future quarterback for your Tennessee Titans. Well, mine's hurt, but he's still there.
Okay.
Just think about it, buddy.
Patrick Mahomes' career injury case because Drew's bragging about it now.
It's not happening. It's not happening.
You're praying it's not happening.
You're still looking for your quarterback, all right? Just remember, you thought Mariota
What are you kidding?
was your guy.
What are you kidding? Our quarterback. What are you talking about? Our quarterback's starting right now, right?
Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
31-year-old Ryan Tannehill.
31, like no quarterback's played at 31 before.
You
Wow.
always
give
you always give grief, but he's 31.
Okay, for a positional player, 31 is old.
What he is already.
No, hold on, stop.
You know what he is
Hold on.
already.
Let me stop you really quick.
He's not going to get any better than what he is. He's not like he's under 24 and like we don't know what he's going to do. We know Ryan Tannehill.
Okay. How many guys retire at 31 when you're not playing quarterback? A lot of them. How many of them retire at 31 when you are playing quarterback?
A lot of them.
The shitty ones. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. The bad ones.
Don't worry, dude. He'll be a backup somewhere else.
Tannehill?
Yeah.
No, he's going to be our starter next year when we overpay for him. Again, when you're talking about Ryan Tannehill and you look at him leading the Dolphins, that we picked to win 2 games last season, Drew. How many did they win? 7. I think 5 of them were with Tannehill, but ignore that fact. He won 5 of those games. But he only played like 11, I think. I think he was 11. It might have been 12. You look at the way Ryan Tannehill has played with like the Dolphins that are trash and have never had any receivers, and they had Adam Gase that might be a good offensive mind but doesn't know how to staff out a team. Don't give me that. Don't give me that, you bitter Chiefs fan. I'm sorry your quarterback got hurt. But you know what? My best quarterback is finally starting, and it's week 7. How about that? Can't you just be happy for my team? You say this all the time. Can't you just be happy for me?
It wasn't directed towards you.
Well, he's a Titans fan too. I got your back, Kenny. I got your back. It's
pretend
tough.
there's a wall here and you can't hear me say
It's tough sharing a camera with Drew. I'll tell you. He's a bitter Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
He has a little bit of success, and now all of a sudden everyone else's team is garbage, and I'm tired of it, Drew. I'm tired of it.
I have never once said if they pay this guy that I'm going to stop being a Titans fan. How many times
I said if they draft him, I'm going to stop doing it. No, well,
You're
Mariota.
You're bitter.
About my team, and that's fine. You can't be bitter about someone else's team.
Oh, what does that?
All right.
Oh, man. Anyways.
Titans, Chiefs. You all heard it here first.
Right.
Now,
Hey,
anyway.
hey.
Now, anyway. I take Tannehill over Matt Moore.
You guys get to face Matt Moore as quarterback. You win that game.
Oh, now it's time for a beer bet. Why didn't I make one in the offseason? All right. Anyway. And Kenny wants to know what will happen when Breeze comes back. He's super curious to see how that plays out. You go with Breeze. Teddy Bridgewater has not been a world beater. He's been the guy that's gotten the Saints by because they have a great roster. And I think that's the guy Teddy Bridgewater is and always has been, but especially is now. I think Teddy Bridgewater's the guy that gets the Saints by without a quarterback. He's probably one of the best backups there is. Right? He's the guy that you're feeling comfortable coming into the game, and you say we still have a chance to win because the roster's this good. But when Breeze comes back, you play him. Right?
Yeah.
Right. As soon as Breeze says, my thumb feels okay.
Yeah, this isn't like a...
You give him the old good game and throw him out in the field.
Kyle Allen or Gardner Minshew scenario. Mm-hmm. The quarterback is Drew Brees, period. There is no seconding that. Steven...
Okay, and Sharif says they should have kept Vince Young. What? Have you ever watched Vince Young play? No. Forever it was the same thing. I was like, dude, Vince Young is garbage. He had a great 8 games when no one knew what he was, and then defense got a little bit of film on him, and they were like, oh, by the way, this guy can't throw the football for anything. And, he can throw it a long way. Who cares? Who cares if you can't hit the broadside of a barn? Vince Young's favorite thing to do was to throw it to opposing players. He's trash. Always was trash. Very soft mentally. Terrible draft pick. The only reason Vince Young was a Titan is because Bud Adams is a Texas guy.
Whoa,
Was a Texas guy.
There you go.
Excuse me.
It's okay.
Vince Young is garbage. Okay? Bad take, Sharif. Normally you got a bunch of great takes. Bad take. I know you're a Texas guy too. Vince Young's trash.
Hey, remember in the Super Bowl you guys lost by a yard?
That was still a lot better than Vince Young ever got us.
That's what it reminds you.
Thank you. All right. Remember that Super Bowl at... Oh,
No,
yeah.
I don't.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm going to do a couple more of these comments, and then we'll talk about the Saints a little bit more. Steven says, doing a QB sneak when Mahomes is already banged up was so stupid. Blame that one on your coach. As a Raiders fan, though, he does hope that Mahomes comes back just as strong, too talented not to do so. I'm with you. You want to beat the best to be the best. So I'm with you hoping he comes back. I'm also with you saying it's stupid. We were talking about that beforehand. There's a lot of other plays you can call there. Do they have the same percentage? No, but it's the Broncos. Do you need to really score that touchdown to beat them? Have you seen Joe Flacco this year? That's all I'm saying.
Steven, go back and watch it, man. We get into it quite a bit. I don't want to get...
Okay.
I don't want to get wild up
Sharif,
again.
Jeff Fisher was a bad coach, but he was also the guy saying Matt Leinart should have been the head coach. Jeff Fisher did him no favors, but just because Jared Goff has succeeded without Jeff Fisher doesn't mean Vince Young would have. Have you ever watched him play in the pros? I get it. He was a great college quarterback. How many great college quarterbacks don't translate? A lot of them. And I think Vince Young is like the headline of that. Everyone says Tebow. Tebow won a playoff game. You know what Vince Young did? Again, had a 7-game span where they put him in there with a great team, with an amazing defense and a good running game.
Won a national
and didn't win anything. In the pros, what did he do?
Got drafted.
Won like 7 games the first season and then couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a pass. In the NFL, you got to pass, Sharif. And I know you get upset that I say that about Lamar Jackson, who's one of your guys too. You got to pass. You have to pass. And Lamar Jackson, far and away the better passer than Vince Young. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is you can't tell me Vince Young was bad just because Jeff Fisher was the coach. Jeff Fisher's a career 500 coach.
He also had a lot of mental health issues.
I think a lot of it's mental weakness. And we can say it's mental health. You can say whatever it is. But it's a guy that forever has been told, you're the best ever at your job. And when you come up against adversity, how do you respond to that?
Maybe it's an excuse, but he did come out later in his life, saying he battled these mental issues. I mean, I'm just saying. Listen, I get it. A running quarterback has not done anything where you're like, oh, you have to draft a running quarterback in today's NFL and be successful. I'm not trying to defend Vince Young here because I don't think he was that good either. But I don't really blame the Tennessee Titans for giving that guy an opportunity.
They got the worst of a bad situation. Remember, Jay Cutler was the best quarterback from that draft class.
I mean, so did the Chiefs. The year that we had the number 1 pick, we drafted Eric Fisher, and he's probably above average left tackle.
Okay, but that's a left tackle. And like you said, he's an above average left tackle.
He's literally the only player that's almost left in that draft.
That's fine. That's fine. But you got a player that stuck around. The best when you're talking about quarterbacks. When you're talking about quarterbacks, which is again half of your team basically. Like you have a great quarterback, you can have a bad team and succeed. You don't have a great quarterback, you can have a good team and fail. They got the worst of a bad situation, the Titans did. And it was because he went to Texas, and Bud Adams loved Texas. That's exactly what it was. Jeff Fisher's come out and said, I wanted Matt Leinart. Does that make Matt Leinart a good player? No, obviously not. But would the Titans have been better with Matt Leinart? Yeah, 100%. Hands down. The Cardinals were booty when they took him.
Kenny said he'd take Young over Mariota any day.
No. Nope.
And Sharif wants to know, are you buzzing?
Nope. Not yet. I'm being honest, man. I'm just being straight with you. Vince Young has been one of the worst prospects to play in the NFL and to get as many chances as he got. Yes, the mental weakness.
Jamarcus Russell, Ryan Leaf. Let's hold on.
One of the worst, again. And Vince Young. Okay. How many other guys are you going to put ahead of that? Not Brody Croyle. What was the Cleveland guy that cried on stage that's on the radio? No, hold on. What was the Cleveland guy that cried when he was when he wasn't taken in the first round and now he's on the radio? Brady Quinn. Another bust. Another terrible receiver, or another terrible quarterback there. But Vince Young's up there. He's on the list, right? Top 10 in the past 20 years of biggest busts in the first round. Don't tell me Vince Young's a good quarterback. We're way off track.
Kenny said, hell, he would take Drew over Mariota at this point and not Breeze.
That is...
Drew.
That is... What do they call it?
I could give you one great
I would take Breeze, too, but
I can give you one great handoff.
And you get hit on the play, and that's
then
it.
I'm done. And I'll sit on IR. I'll even fill up.
I don't like Mariota either, but
Gatorade cups.
Mariota has done a lot better job than Vince Young has, period. Mariota has had the splash plays where you're like, man, this guy could have it. Except for Vince Young running a little bit in the first year.
I like Billy Volek.
Billy Volek was a good backup. We're not going into Billy Volek right now. We're way off track. We got to bring it back to Saints and Bears somehow.
Okay.
Somehow. And this is me saying we're way off track talking about the Titans. Billy Volek was a fine backup. Not a great one. He was a fine backup. He was a good player.
I don't think he ever had the chance.
Okay. Maybe. He took a bad hit. He had to have his spleen removed because it ruptured. I know that. I remember that.
It was so late in his career when the Chargers finally let him go. It would. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah. And Steven says Quinn, LOL. Yeah, exactly. Quinn. When we're talking about mental weakness and you've got a quarterback that I wasn't drafted where they said I was going to, so they had to pull me off the stage because I'm crying on camera. And then now I listen to him on the radio every time I drive home from doing a Sunday show, talking crap about other players in the NFL, saying they're weak and everything. Shut up. Shut up. Okay? Shut up. You were the guy crying on national TV. I was there. I saw it. And I remember when Cleveland traded up to take your crying ass. Shut up. All right? Some people don't need to be in the media, and that's one of them. Not a Brady Quinn fan.
I like him on the radio. I think he's actually very knowledgeable.
He might be knowledgeable, but he's also soft as Charmin, as Richard Sherman would say, okay? So I don't want to hear him talking shit about other players. I just don't.
When he talks about toughness, it does drive me nuts. It does, but I still think he's very knowledgeable about the game. Not one of my favorites by any means. I'd say Pat Kerwin's my favorite, but
wait, what are we even doing here? What are we talking about? All right.
We're talking about radio show hosts.
All right. Sorry. Sorry. My fault. You got me. I was off track.
Let's go into movies now, huh? Have you seen The Joker yet? No,
I have. Not bad. Go see it. You'll watch the first hour and you'll be like, what the hell is this movie? It sucks. And then everything makes sense after that. And you're like, aha, masterpiece.
See how I get them off track?
All right.
Let's talk about boobs.
Let's talk about the Saints. You can't tempt me from the path of righteousness here, Drew.
That's boobs.
We're going to... This is going to be a defensive struggle. When everyone said 11-8, when everyone's saying 11-9 in some of these games, this might be what this is. Who do you go with? The reason I'm taking the Saints is because I believe in Teddy Bridgewater more than I believe in the backup quarterback for Chicago, which is Chase Daniels, or Mitch Trubisky coming back from injury. He has not been historically great coming back from injury. I think this is going to be a massive defensive struggle, even though Alvin Kamara is likely not to play here. I like Michael Thomas here. I think Teddy Bridgewater will make fewer mistakes, and that'll be the difference. That being said, it could be 11-9, the Bears win. It could be 11-9, the Bears lose. I'm going to say 55-45 like before. I think Saints win here.
I think Bears win. They're embarrassed from what happened last week.
And Ian says, time to talk politics. All right.
God, no.
Tulsi Gilbert. All right. Should she be in the Democratic debate? No, we're not talking about that. We do our best not to. So we'll keep going. All right. And Sharif says, I need a shot. You know what I need? Brody Croyle off the radio. That's what I need.
Yeah,
all right.
Brady
Quinn, whatever. Sorry, Brody Croyle. I know you were an okay backup for like 5 minutes in Kansas City. I remember that.
He was a starter one year. He was terrible.
Terrible starter. Had a shining moment as a backup quarterback, though.
What, holding a
better than
clipboard?
Vince Young? No, he had like a great game. I'm forgetting what it was, but I remember everyone.
He did.
There was hype around him. Remember?
He did.
He was the Case
Hold that
Keenum.
clipboard.
He
Very
was the
nice.
Case Keenum before Case Keenum, and I was like, this guy could be good.
And I remember watching him on the sideline, thinking, "Dude, that guy is built like a twig," and he wasn't. But for some reason, that's always what I felt like when I watched him in pads. I was like, "Dude, this guy is skinny and gonna get broken in half." And that's weird.
Trevor
he didn't
Lawrence.
He didn't last the whole season. Trevor Lawrence, what?
Same thing. Tiny, skinny.
Yeah, but
he throws the ball.
He's not though. Like,
have you seen Trevor Lawrence?
Have you seen Daniel
He's like
Jones?
Slender Man.
You hugged
He's like,
him. You hugged Daniel Jones like he was a lost brother.
I didn't hug him.
Yes, you did. You took a picture with him, hugged him, kissed him on his cheek, and said, "Good luck."
I did. And you wonder why I succeeded. Man, all right. I'm looking up Brody Croyle stats here. I'll get back to you on that one. We need to get back to the Ravens and the Seahawks, guys. We appreciate you sticking with us. We've gone so far off the rails. I don't know where the rails are anymore.
I think this is the game of the week. I think the Ravens facing the Seahawks in Seattle. I think this is a true test against this Ravens team. If this is a team that's going to find themselves in the playoffs, that's going to find themselves in possibly contend for a Super Bowl, if that's what Ravens fans think. I know, Sharif, you haven't really thought that way, but now with a little bit of success, maybe this is what you're seeing. This is a true testament to their team. I mean, you're going against a very unfamiliar opponent. You're going into Seattle, across the country. Everyone knows a 12th man in that stadium is a tough place to play. This is going to be a great game for the Ravens, but unfortunately, it does not make a difference. I still believe in Russell Wilson. I still believe in the Seahawks. And, of course, my boy Tyler Lockett might go off.
To derail us further, in 2007, Brodie Croyle, in 6 games, threw for 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The hype was real on Brodie Croyle.
What was it now?
2007 for Kansas City. In 6 games started, even though they went 0-6, he threw for 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. There was hype around Brodie Croyle, and that's exactly what I'm remembering. And then it turned out to be Case Keenum, where that hype really didn't pan out. And that's an insult to Case Keenum, who has been better than that, but still.
He was garbage, dude.
All right, going to the Seahawks game. I think the Ravens are going to have a fight on their hands here. When you look at the way their defense has played, I think the Seahawks have done enough to get wins. Ugly, I think that's exactly what happens here. In front of the 12th man, on the road, you're asking can Lamar Jackson and company outscore someone like Russell Wilson, who both are dual threat quarterbacks that can move the ball with their feet if they need to, can do dynamic things. I got to go with the conservative team here. I got to go with the team that runs the ball consistently, even though the Ravens can run as well. They play better defense than the Ravens do. They have the better quarterback than the Ravens do. They have the better receiver than the Ravens do, even though I like Marquise Brown. I got to go Seahawks. Every situation here points to the Seahawks, which is probably why they'll lose to this game. But I got to go Seahawks. I got to stick chalk here.
Yeah, during the offseason, we also picked the Seahawks as well. Kenny says that Jackson's going to get at least 35 rushing yards. I don't know if that's a bold statement.
I'll buy that.
I don't know if that's a bold statement.
I'm not taking the beer bet in the under there.
Sharif says both teams will pound the rock, no doubt about it, because this is what they are built on, is to run the ball, no doubt about
it. Steven also says Casey starting 0-6 was a great season in the NFL. Huh. Interesting from a Raiders fan. Brodie Croyle, still 1,200 yards, 6 games. Not bad. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about this game first. Ian says Clowney meets Jackson all day. The Seattle defense wins it. Special teams is the difference for the Hawks. It could be. I think they're very disciplined, even though I don't think Pete Carroll's like a world beater coach. I think he's a good one in the NFL. I think he's a guy that's kept them on message. I like Russell Wilson. Do not make mistakes here. And the Ravens have been abysmal on defense this year. I don't think anyone's arguing that. They're giving up a ton of yardage. They're going to struggle to stop the run. I think the Seahawks will come up big in some possessions. I think this is a higher scoring game than people think. I think when you look at the Ravens, they've moved the ball this season. The Seahawks have moved the ball on the ground as well. I think this is going to be like 33 to 26. I think we turn into a bit of a shootout here, but the Seahawks have whatever it takes to win games in the NFL. Even if it's ugly, regardless of what happens, they pull out ugly wins like in Cleveland when they're down 20-6, and I was like, magically, they drag their way back into it. I think that happens in this game too.
I think this is a great matchup against two great coaches that have survived a long time in the NFL and will continue to do so. Sharif says Earl Thomas will lay out Drew's boyfriend Lockett. Well, I didn't know he's my boyfriend, but I'm a little upset that he has not took me out for dinner.
You haven't even got a text yet.
I know.
It's tough. I feel for you.
I keep sending him nudes, too. I don't understand the problem.
Hey, what do you mean I'm blocked on Twitter? Steven says the Seahawks get it in close, 30-27. I'm kind of in the same mindset. That sounds about right to me, Steven. I'm with you on that one. Also, Kenny says Wilson is a safe play always. Obviously a great quarterback, but Jackson is spunky, huh? Yeah, maybe he turns it on this week. Maybe Lamar Jackson has that watershed moment where he says, I'm a legit kind of contender for a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, because I've heard a lot of Ravens fans talk about that, right? I mean, he gets things done against bad teams, and he comes up a little bit short against the good ones. This is a kind of game that maybe we change that opinion a little bit. Maybe Lamar Jackson can get this win with the bad defense. It can be all on his shoulders, and I'll give him a little more respect. I know guys like Sharif, it's got to make you want to pull your hair out saying every time you turn the show on and I say Lamar Jackson's not that good. Here's the game he can prove it. Here's the game that if he wins it, I will say that was a pretty impressive win from a guy like Lamar Jackson, especially if he does it with his arm and he throws for 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then runs on top of it. When I see that, that's what I'll say. When I don't...
But he's done that.
But not against the great teams.
He's exactly what you just put stats out
He
there?
does that.
done
No,
that.
no, not 280 yards. He's 180 yards.
No, it was 250 yards and 100 yards rushing. Yes, it was.
Okay, so he's done it like once, and every time he does it against bad defenses, or he does it against Miami. He puts up 330 yards against Miami's defense. This is my point. Do it against a good defense. The Seahawks are a good defense. They may not be a great defense, but they're a good defense. Do it in this game. I'll be back. I'll be back in that camp of saying, hey, maybe Lamar Jackson's kind of like guys like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, that they're good, and show me a little bit more, and I'll say they're great. And we'll talk about them like Russell Wilson. We'll talk about them like Tom Brady. Right now, you're in that 2 tiers below, not even that category that can say they can be those guys. They're in that category behind saying they're chasing the guys that want to be Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Russell Wilson in the NFL right now. This is the kind of game I need you to show up in. This is the kind of game the Ravens need you to show up in. The defense isn't playing well. Yes, you're running the ball. I need you to throw a little bit here. I need you to run as well, because that's what your game plan is. Show me a great game, and I'm in on Lamar Jackson, okay? Maybe not as in as guys like Sharif and everyone else, but show me a great game here, and I'll say the future's looking better than the outlook I've given you before.
All right, guys, we got to get out of here. I'm going to do one last comment before we do final thoughts. Kenny said, who...
Love you, Sharif, but I can't... I gotta preach the truth, man. I hate it.
Who has the better weapons? Is it the Seahawks or is it the Baltimore Ravens?
With Will Dissly, I would say I'd take Dissly and Lockett over Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown. But I will say, I think we underrate Chris Carson. Let's throw him in there too, right? Carson, Dissly, Lockett, I would pick by an edge over
Ingram
Marquise Brown, Mark Ingram, and Mark Andrews.
And that second tight end that I know Sharif will tell us about in Baltimore is Hurts. He's also a stud.
Hayden Hurst from South Carolina. Yep.
Also a stud. I mean, I think Dissly out.
I did start Hollywood Brown in week 1.
Dissly out, man. I'd have to give it to the Ravens, but at quarterback is what makes a difference here. He makes the weapons that much better. And
Sharif is right. Carson is a workhorse. So is Mark Ingram. I'd say that's almost a wash. I think both players are very, very good, if not elite. I'll take Lockett over Marquise Brown by experience rather than by skill, and I definitely am taking Russell Wilson over Lamar Jackson. That's important. I'll take Mark Andrews over whoever the Seahawks get in there now, but I like Will Dissly too. Weapons, Kenny, right now, I'm going to say Ravens, but the defense, you look at it, what the Ravens have given up, got to go Seahawks here.
Final thoughts.
My final thoughts, another great week in the NFL coming up here. I'm sorry we got so off track. Drew, we disagree on a few games here. Maybe this is what breaks the tie. I think we're on 3, so I think the tie breaks regardless here.
Well, you don't know what Sunday night, Monday night's going to have, but you're right.
Great games on Sunday night. Not such a great game on Monday
Jets
night.
with the upset.
Says nobody. And I don't blame you. We'll be back on Sunday to talk about all this action we just talked about. Hopefully stay a little more on track. And also preview the Eagles and Cowboys game, which might as well be the only primetime game this week. Everyone's going to get to watch the Patriots maul the Jets on Monday night. So for Sports Around the Bar, guys, we appreciate you sticking with us.
Where's my final thought?
All right, what's your final thought, Drew?
Jesus, this guy...
Go ahead. No, please.
You know what? Just do the show without me.
What are your final thoughts? Here's your chance, and you're blowing it.
I'm thinking it.
Here's your chance.
No, I can't say anything. I can only think stuff now. This is just what Sports Around the Bar is going to be.
You didn't have any final
No,
thoughts.
actually I did. The only thing I got to say, man...
So for Sports Around the Bar, we'll be... Go ahead.
With Patrick Mahomes out, all I can hope for is that the Chiefs go 1-2. I'm being realistic here. If they go 1-3, I'm a little disappointed. Just get one win out of the next 3 weeks. Hopefully, after the bye week, Pat Mahomes is back and healthy. We keep rolling towards the playoffs. Guys, thank you again for all the likes, comments, shares. It means the world to us. I do want to give special thanks out there for everyone that did comment, and I've missed you. I'm so sorry. But Jonathan, Ian, Chris, Brian, Kenny, Justin, Ivy, Luke, Edward, Frank, Sharif, Ray, Chris, Steven, Jacob, David, you guys are all awesome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Absolutely, and Kenny is right. Drew is butthurt, but what else is new? Let's talk about that on Sunday night. We hope to see you guys back here.
This is my last show, guys. I'm signing out.
He died with Patrick Mahomes.
It was Drew.
We will see you guys on Sunday, same time. Maybe
done.
Drew's here, maybe not.
Won't be.
Can't wait for that. Hope you join us.
Sports Around the Bar.
For Sports Around the Bar. I guess I'm doing it.